Otherwise, I'm so sorry, we just left the dogs. You're stuck with me. You're stuck with me for an entire 4-hour tour.
4 hours?
I'm just kidding. It was a 1-hour tour, but I had to get your attention somehow. Now that I have everyone's attention, we're going to do a quick safety demonstration before we get the cruise going. So if I can get everybody's attention to the back of the boat, to the stern. On the main level of the boat in large black boxes. To put on your life jacket, simply slip your head through the keyhole. Either side of the jacket works. Take the 2 long straps off the bottom, wrap them around your body, and tie them to yourself in the front. Take the 2 short straps underneath your chin and tie them securely underneath your chin. Each life jacket is equipped with a whistle off the side, which you can use to draw attention to yourself, as well as reflective straps on top. Please give it up for our crew members demonstrating the safety in the life jackets. Came here through this port. So the terminal boasted goods from all over the world, from things like Algerian figs to Norwegian cod liver oil, which in the 1920s were the 2 best flavors, so it was a hopping place to be. Then, of course, the 1930s set in, and with the Great Depression, the terminal switched gears, and it became a warehouse to provide clothing at cost to the workers of Toronto. Right next door to the terminal, as well as offers classes and everything from printmaking to glass blowing workshops are happening there right now. Right next door we have the Harbourfront Center. This is really cool. It's one of our concert centers right on the water. The Harbourfront Center was built with a stage at a 45-degree angle in order to provide great sound quality to people listening on land and on the water. It sees 17 million visitors a year for all sorts of concerts and cultural events. Nothing going on today, but it's a nice place to check out if you want to stay outside and have some fun. Right next door, off the starboard side, there's a little storage slip for materials that were going to go to the railway, and then taken over in the 1980s by a Dutchman, turned it into a craft brewery, and now it has the largest harbourfront patio. It's a great place to have beer if you want to enjoy the view. Next we have the Marine Police and Fire Station. I know some of you guys were like, Angie, I thought there was no law at sea. Well, I hate to tell you, we are on the lake, and the law is very much real. In fact, even though it gets really cold in Toronto in the wintertime, each station is on 2 man-made on the harbourfront. So you don't have time to make it all the way to the islands. You can check out one of the beaches on harbourfront here. They're free and accessible all day long. All right, so now we are passing 2 of the biggest features of Toronto. We've got the CN Tower and the Rogers Centre. How many of you have been to the CN Tower? All right, and how many of you have? You can see some tiny red dots on the Sky Dome. Not today. Those are people completing the Edge Walk. They're up there of their free will. Don't worry about them. It is beautiful weather today, so it is one of those rare days where you can do the Edge Walk. And now for the rest of you, how many of you who went to the CN Tower, how many of you took the stairs? Okay, good. Usually there's a couple of liars on the boat. You actually cannot take the stairs except for twice a year, 5 times a year. On a clear day from the top of the tower, you can see all the way to the Niagara Falls. And while the tower is one of the 7 wonders of the world, it's no longer the tallest building in the world. It held that record for 32 years. It has been beat out by the Burj Khalifa and the Canton Tower, but we can still proudly say it is the tallest freestanding structure. Why? I can't compete with them. Also, we passed the Rogers Centre. I'm going to come back to that when we turn around. I want to point out some stuff we're passing now. Okay, so right now we are passing Spadina Quay. So during the time of World War I and II, Canada was actually the 3rd largest shipbuilding nation in the world. This was the site of building massive ships, being the Canadian Molson factory, which was just north of here. Totally defunct in the 1980s. Now we use it for mixed services. They do art installations on the outside of it. Most silos burned down as they were built of wood, but this was the first one in Canada to be built of poured concrete, so we're stuck with it forever. Just beyond it, if you're interested in history or if you're Irish, we have Ireland Park. If you see those big piles of black stacked glass, that's a monument. There's also individual bronze structures. Ireland Park was built in 2007 in order to commemorate the tens of thousands of Irish who came to Toronto during the Great Famine. In 1847, 38,000 Irish people came to Toronto, landed right here at Greece Wharf to escape in World War II. Changed the name a few times, she's retired, and now you can check her out right here, historical boat. As we start to make our turn here, there's a beautiful looking building with cascading green glass here. This is a condo building, no big deal, right? Tons of condos on the harbor. However, this was the first condo built. It is called King's Landing. It was built by the famous architect Arthur Erickson, who also built Lord Thompson Hall on King Street, which is home to Canada's National Ballet. He built it intentionally so that when the sun bounces off the glass, it resembles a waterfall. So, one of the most beautiful, architecturally significant condo buildings. Wow. So I can use that terminology from now on just to quiz you on it as we do sightseeing off the side. So off the starboard side, we have Toronto's Island Airport. How many of you flew into this airport? That's right, not too many. Although it was built to be Toronto's primary airport, it was eclipsed by Pearson Airport, which most of you probably went to instead. They were both built in 1989. However, Billy Bishop Airport over here, because of its island location, experiences a lot of fog and weather conditions that are not ideal for as many flights as we need to go in and out of Toronto. Also because of all the condos that popped up around Dublin, known as the departure, whereas this one is known as the arrival. So it's free to check out if you want to get into some history over there. And then if you notice the little blank space between the mainland and the airport, that is one of two entryways into the Toronto Harbor. Very important that we have these entries and exits as it allows to be a bustling port. This is the smaller of the two. I'll let you know when we pass the other one. You can only take a ferry to the airport. It was a quick 1-minute ferry, although it felt like a long time if you were late for your flight. And then in 2007, Free Toronto built an underground tunnel to the airport, which I was so excited to check out until I got down there and saw that it was just a concrete tunnel. There's no windows. So if you want to see some fish, the best thing to do is still to go into the aquarium. The airport did used to give out free cookies and coffee if you made the trip. So if you want to take that tunnel for some free cookies and coffee, it's still worth it. Toronto's expensive and you gotta save money where you land. That is known as the Ned Handland Point, and it is named after Ned Handland, who's considered Canada's first sporting hero. He was a champion rower, described as absolutely laying waste to the competition at the time, often rowing so far ahead of everybody he would pull stunts like pretend to drop his oars in the water or take a nap in the boat. Fans absolutely loved him. Not only an avid rower, he was the inventor of the sliding seat, which you've used if you've ever used a rowing machine, and which cheated, but he got away with it back in the day. Also, Handland's Point is home to Toronto's clothing optional beach. So, it's a beautiful day. If anybody wants to check that out, it is optional. If you are looking for a more family-friendly beach, I suggest Center Island, as that is the fully closed beach. It also has the pier, the walkway, a couple bars, a couple schools, and a small amusement park called Centerville. I'll just pause while the plane goes by. motorized roof. The roof takes 20 minutes to open and close. That's right, it's closed right now, but it opens as we get to nicer weather. It takes 20 minutes to open and close and about $30 in electricity, which means if no one tips me for this tour, I will effectively be making less than a roof. But hey, that's a bigger draw in Toronto. I get it, I understand. A little bit of a fun fact, it also holds the world's record for most hot air balloons in an enclosed space, and 48 members have qualified for the Olympics. So if you're into that, I don't know if it's a little too windy today. We don't have any sailboats out here, but if you're into sports in the Olympics, you need to check out the yacht club there. And we are passing some of the houses we talked about here. This is the area you can walk along if you decide to visit the islands. We are cruising today on Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario is one of the 5 Great Lakes. It's actually the smallest of the 5 Great Lakes, but it is the 17th largest lake in the world. It's a freshwater lake, so not too many exciting. And 48 members have qualified for the Olympics. So if you're into that, I don't know if it's a little too windy today. We don't have any sailboats out here, but if you're into sports in the Olympics, you need to check out the yacht club there. And we are passing some of the houses we talked about here. This is the area you can walk along if you decide to visit the islands. We are cruising today on Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario is one of the 5 Great Lakes. It's actually the smallest of the 5 Great Lakes, but it is the 17th largest lake in the world. It's a freshwater lake, so not too many exciting. Here. Right now we are passing the Toronto Star Building. The Toronto Star Building, this is the newer Toronto Star Building, the older one is the beautiful Art Deco building. This one is located at number 1 Yonge Street. In fact, Yonge Street is the current Guinness Book of World Record holder for the longest street in the world. This street is just under 2,000 kilometers long. And what they did was they insulated the building with gold dust between all the windows. So you can see as you go through the buildings here, it'll shine, it'll stick out to you what you see. Cool. What informal productions can actually tie themselves to the city of Toronto. We have a huge film industry happening. A little fun thing you can do is you can actually Google the keep tabs on if you're staying in the area and you want to find out what's being filmed in your area right now. Constantly have movies and series on the go. We are starting to come back into the docks now. I hope so much you have enjoyed your tour. I will quickly ask you will get a survey to fill out if you bought tickets today, and if you have time the next day or something.
Salamat kabayan. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, bye.